Okay, I'm going to say 3 words, and I want you to try very hard not to fall asleep immediately. Are you ready?
I am on the edge of my seat.
Conditions of contract.
Ah.
You were the only one. I mean, for most of us, that sounds like the driest, most boring topic imaginable. It sounds like the fine print you scroll past so you can click, I agree.
It really does. But, that's where the actual battles are fought.
Exactly. We've been reading through the source materials for this deep dive, and it turns out this is where all the drama is. We're talking about who watches the watchers, what happens when concrete fails, and the absolute nuclear option of remedial work.
That's right. Today we are unpacking the FIDIC 2017 Conditions of Contract for EPC Turnkey Projects, the Silver Book. And specifically, we're zooming right in on Clause 7, Plants, Materials, and Workmanship.
So this is the quality control game.
This is it. And just for context, in a turnkey project, which is what the Silver Book is for, the contractor holds most of the risk. They design it, they build it.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. So Clause 7 is basically the employer's main tool to make sure they aren't buying a lemon. It covers everything from how the work is done to who owns the steel.
I love that, the don't sell me a lemon clause. Okay, so let's dive in. The clause starts with something that sounds almost old-timey. Subclause 7.1 talks about the manner of execution.
It does. It sets the baseline.
And it lists 3 pillars for how the work gets done. One is obvious, as specified in the contract.
Yeah.
Do what you signed up to do, fine. But the second one, it really caught my eye. It says work must be done in a proper, workmanlike, and careful manner.
Yes, workmanlike.
It sounds like something a blacksmith would say in, like, the 1800s. Is that actually a legal standard?
It is, and it's a surprisingly heavy one. You see, without that phrase, a contractor could, in theory, build something that meets the minimum specs but is just sloppy.
Right, the finish is terrible or it's just a mess.
Precisely. Proper workmanlike and careful manner, in accordance with recognized good practice, creates the standard of quality. It means you can't just slap it together. You have to do it like a professional would.
So it prevents the technically it stands up defense.
That's it, exactly. If you hire someone to tile your bathroom and the tiles are on the wall, but they're all crooked, that's not workmanlike. Now scale that up to $1 billion project.
Got it. And the third pillar in 7.1 is just as important, using properly equipped facilities and non-hazardous materials.
Right. You can't mix concrete in a dirty bucket, basically. The environment has to produce quality.
Okay, good to know. So before the contractor even starts mixing that concrete, there's another step. Subclause 7.2, examples.
Good taste test, yeah.
This feels like when you're picking out tiles for your kitchen, but just on a massive scale.
That's a great analogy. The contract says the contractor has to submit samples for consent before using them. And here's a key constraint. It's always about the money. This is done at the contractor's cost.
So the employer doesn't pay.
Nope. The contractor pays for the sample, the shipping, all of it.
And it's not just a random piece of metal, right? The clause says each sample has to be labeled with its origin and intended use.
Why do you think that labeling is so specific?
Just so they don't get mixed up?
Well, it's a bit deeper than that. It's about traceability. If you show me a sample of high-grade steel, I need to know exactly where it came from.
Ah, so you can check that the real stuff is from the same place.
Exactly. It prevents the old bait and switch, show a premium sample, then install the cheap version.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's move to where the boots meet the mud. Subclause 7.3, inspection. The right to snoop.
Snoop is a good word for it. It gives the employer's people really broad access.
It says they have full access to all parts of the site? That seems pretty standard. But it goes further than that, doesn't it?
Much further. 7.3a gives them access to all places from which natural materials are being obtained. So if you're mining gravel for the project 2 towns over,
They can show up at the quarry.
they can go check the dirt at the source. Exactly. And 7.3b covers during production, manufacture, and construction.
That sounds like it means off-site, too.
It does. If you're fabricating steel beams in a factory across the world, the employer technically has the right to go there and inspect the workmanship.
Wow. So you can't hide bad welding in a factory in another country.
Not if the employer's on top of it. And here's something new in the 2017 edition. They can make records, including photographs and video recordings.
It definitely feels like a response to everyone having a smartphone.
It is. It makes it clear the employer can film the inspection. No arguments.
That's huge for evidence. But there's a specific drama in this section that I really want to get into, the covering up scenario.
Yes, the cover-up trap.
This sounds like a movie plot. Walk us through this.
Okay, so in construction, a lot of really critical work gets buried. You lay pipes, then you fill the trench, you tie rebar, you pour concrete over it.
And once it's covered, you can't see if it was done right.
Exactly. So the contract sets up a very strict rule. The contractor must give a notice to the employer whenever work is ready to be inspected before it's covered.
Come look before we hide it forever.
Basically, the employer then has to come inspect it or tell him it's fine. If the employer does nothing, the contractor can go ahead and cover it.
Seems fair. So where's the trap?
The trap is if the contractor forgets to give that notice. Let's say they're in a rush, they bury the pipes and just don't tell the employer.
And the employer comes by later and says, hey, what's under there?
That's it. And even if the work is perfect, the employer can demand they uncover it. And here's the kicker. The contractor has to uncover it and then put it all back at the contractor's risk and cost.
Ouch. So you pay to dig it up and fill it in again just because you didn't send an email?
Yes. It's a harsh penalty, but it forces transparency. The rule is, if you hide it, you buy it.
That is a powerful incentive.
Cool.
Okay, so let's move to subclause 7.4, testing. We've inspected, we've snooped, now we need to run the numbers.
Right. This is for all the tests that are specified in the contract.
First question, who brings all the gear?
The contractor. The list is pretty comprehensive. They provide everything. Apparatus, documents, electricity, water, fuel, instruments, labor.
So the employer just shows up with a clipboard.
Pretty much. The contractor builds the lab, and they have to prove their equipment is calibrated.
Okay, so the stage is set, but there's a timing game here too, right?
There is. It's a bit of a dance. The contractor gives a notice. We're ready to test on this date at this place.
And the employer.
They have to give at least 72 hours notice if they intend to show up.
72 hours. Okay, but here's the part I found fascinating. I'm calling it the ghosting rule. What happens if the employer just doesn't show up?
This is a critical rule for keeping a project moving. If the employer doesn't attend, the contractor can just proceed with the tests.
They can do it without him.
Unless they're told otherwise, yes. And here's the real power of that clause. These tests shall then be deemed to have been made in the employer's presence.
Whoa, so if the employer ghosts the test, they legally were there.
In spirit, yes. Which means they are deemed to have accepted the results as accurate. They can't come back later and say, well, we don't trust your data. You missed your chance.
That seems unbelievably important for the contractor. Otherwise, an employer could just stall a project forever by never attending tests.
That's exactly why it's in there. It prevents what you could call absentee obstruction.
And can the employer change the tests? Like walk in and say, test this one instead.
They can, but there's a cost implication. Of course.
Always a cost implication.
If they order a new test and it passes, the employer pays for the delay. That's cost plus profit.
So if I make you move all your gear and the concrete's fine, I pay for your trouble.
Correct. But if that surprise test fails,
The contractor pays for everything.
the contractor pays. It's a gamble for the employer.
Mhm.
If you suspect something's wrong, you better be right.
High stakes testing. I love it.
Mm.
Okay, so let's say the test fails. The pipes leak. Now we're in subclause 7.5. Defects and rejection.
This is the formal process of saying, nope, not good enough.
How does that go?
The employer gives a notice about the defect. The contractor then has to promptly come up with a proposal for how to fix it.
And the employer reviews that proposal.
They do. But there's another hidden timer here, a really important one that can catch employers out.
I saw this, the 14-day rule.
Yes. If the contractor sends their proposal and the employer just says nothing.
Silence.
After 14 days, the employer is deemed to have given a notice of no objection.
Wait, so silence equals approval?
In this contract, yes, you cannot sit on a remedial proposal. If you don't object in 2 weeks, the contractor can just go ahead and do their fix.
That is wild. You really have to stay on top of your email if you're the employer.
Absolutely. The contract punishes inaction. It forces you to pay attention.
So, assuming the fix is approved, we move to 7.6.
Yeah.
Remedial work. This is where they actually fix it.
Right. And the employer has a few options. They can instruct the contractor to repair it, to remove it and rebuild it, or
Option C, carry out urgent work for safety.
this is the emergency button. If a retaining wall looks like it's about to collapse, the employer can say, fix this now, and the contractor has to comply immediately.
And the contractor pays for all of this, right? Since it was their mistake.
Generally, yes. If it was bad workmanship, the contractor pays.
Now for the nuclear option. What if the contractor just says no? Or drags their feet?
That's covered right at the end of 7.6. If the contractor fails to comply, The employer can hire other people to do the work.
You can bring in a totally different company.
Yes, and they can bill the original contractor for all the costs that come from that.
That is the ultimate leverage. If you won't fix it, I'll hire your biggest competitor to do it, and I'll send you the bill.
It is. It's messy. It often ends in a dispute, but the contract gives them that power. It makes sure the employer isn't held hostage.
Held hostage is a good way to put it. This whole clause feels designed to prevent stalemates.
That's a great observation. The deemed acceptance, the ghosting rule, this third-party option, they're all ways to keep the project moving.
Okay, we're nearly at the end of Clause 7. The last couple of sections are a bit more administrative. Subclause 7.7. Ownership of plant and materials. Whose stuff is it?
This is crucial, especially if a contractor goes bankrupt. You need to know who owns the steel sitting on the site.
And it uses an earlier of rule.
Correct. Ownership transfers to the employer at whichever is the earlier of two moments, when it's delivered to the site or when the contractor gets paid for it.
So if it lands on the dirt, it's the employer's.
Yes. Or if they pay for it while it's still in the factory, it's theirs then.
And there's a condition. Free from liens and other encumbrances.
Right. The contractor has to have clear title to it. They can't transfer ownership of something they still owe money on.
And finally, subclause 7.8. Royalties. This one made me smile a bit. It feels like we're paying rent for dirt.
You kind of are. This just says the contractor has to pay all the royalties and rents for natural materials, like gravel from a quarry.
So you pay the gravel pit owner.
And crucially, it also says the contractor pays for the disposal of demolition and excavation waste.
The garbage.
All the waste. You can't just dump it anywhere. The landfill fees, that's on the contractor's bill, not the employer's.
Okay, let's just recap this whole journey. We started with the workman-like standard.
Move to the right to snoop and the risk of covering up work.
Then the testing gauntlet, with the 72-hour notice and the ghosting rule.
Followed by the rejection and remedy, the 14-day timer, and that nuclear option.
And finally, who owns the stuff and who pays for the dirt? When you look at Clause 7 as a whole, what's the big picture for you?
For me, the core theme is that transparency forces accountability. The contract knows the contractor wants to save money and the employer wants a perfect building. Those goals can conflict.
Right.
So Clause 7 builds this cage of transparency. You have to send samples. You have to give notice. You have to invite us to tests. By forcing the contractor to work out in the open, it makes it much harder to cut corners.
And it forces the employer to be responsive, too. You can't just ignore things. If you don't show up, you lose your right to complain later.
Exactly. It demands active participation. Quality isn't just the contractor's job. Checking it is the employer's job. And if either side falls asleep, the contract has a penalty ready.
That's a really powerful way to see it. It's a system to prevent laziness on both sides.
It is.
I want to leave you with one final thought, going back to that ghosting rule in testing. We said, if the employer doesn't show up, the test goes on and the results are accepted. In a really high-stakes project, say a nuclear plant, is it actually better for the employer to not show up sometimes? I mean, if you don't show up, you're just relying on the contractor's data. But if you do show up and you're standing there watching and you miss something, are you more responsible because you saw it happen and didn't stop it?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Does witnessing the test transfer some of that responsibility? A lawyer might argue staying away keeps your hands clean. An engineer would say that's risking the whole project.
Something to think about next time you sign a contract.
Or just next time you hire someone to fix your bathroom, definitely check the tiles before they grout them.
Always check the tiles. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.
See you next time.
If you're interested in the templates, please visit our shop. The link is in the description.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and see next time.